Hello everyone and welcome to our addendum video to the Nekroz teleport deck profile. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend going watching that, because it will give you a bit more information as to what we're about to do here. We're going to start by doing a few of the basic combos for both Nekroz and then after that do the combos for the teleport line. Once all that is done, I'm then going to do at least 2 to 3 test hands to show you exactly what this deck can do in a regular game state situation. So with all that being said, let's just get straight to the combo, shall we? So the first combo we'll be doing here is our bread and butter Nekroz combo. We're going to be starting by normal summoning Avon, Swordsman of Nekroz, and that's going to allow us to special summon from our deck the Emilia, Dance Priestess of Nekroz. From here, we can then use Emilia effect to add our Nekroz of Arid Bear. And our Arid Bear effect is going to discard itself and tribute the Emilia on our field to then send our Nekroz Divine Mirror. Divine Mirror is then going to banish itself and Emilia to then add our Nekroz Cycle. And what Cycle is going to do is to tribute our Avons to summon back the Nekroz of Arid Bear. And then the effect of Avons is going to allow us to add back any number of differently named Nekroz cards from our banished to our hand. So we're going to be adding back our Emilia and Nekroz Divine Mirror. I should point out that Avons' add back effect is once per duel. I don't know why they did that, because it's just, why'd you have to make it once per duel, Matt Konami? Just why? So from here, we can then set our Nekroz Divine Mirror, and honestly, this is a pretty standard Nekroz setup. You've got your Monster Negate and Banish in Arid Bear, and you've got Divine Mirror for potential turn 2 shenanigans involving Trishula or Unicorn. But for the most part, pair this with like a bunch of the non-engine, and I think it's a survivable board, but at the same time, I feel like we can do better, and I will show you in the next combo. So with our next combo, we're going to be showing you a situation on if Arid Bear appears in your opening hand along with Avons. So here we're going to be normal summoning Avons, and instead of summoning Emilia, we're then going to be summoning our Sharit Strategist of Nekroz. And from here, we're going to be using the Arid Bear effect, discarding itself and tributing Sharit to then send one from the deck to the grave. We're going to be sending our Nekroz Divine Mirror, and on resolution, Sharit's effect is going to activate, allowing us to add one warrior Nekroz ritual monster from our deck to our hands. So with this, we can go one of 2 ways. We can add Trishula for potential turn 2 plays with Divine Mirror, or for potential turn 3 follow-up, we can add the Brianak to add a Nekroz monster to reset the combo. But here, we're going to just simply add our Trishula. Divine Mirror is then going to banish itself and Sharit to then add the Cycle, and then Cycle effect is going to then tribute the Avons to bring back our Arid Bear. Avons is going to add back our Sharit and Divine Mirror, and now from here we can then just set the Divine Mirror. And now we have a few more interactions here. We have about, I'd say, 2 to 3. We have our Negate and Banish in Arid Bear, but we now also have Divine Mirror, which could help us tribute Sharit to then get out the Trishula on our opponent's turn. And from there, we can basically banish one monster, one card on the field, graveyard, and hand. It has to be exactly 3. I don't know why they outlined it like that, but keeps it balanced, I guess, especially considering how easy we just sort of summon it from here. But yeah, a bit more bang for your buck, especially when paired with the non-engine. Like, say for example, we in this deck we do play a Fallen and the Virtuous, so in addition to this we would also have a few bits of spot removal. Forbidden Droplet would help with extra monster negate if they do follow up or attempt to follow up. But yeah, other than that, pretty good Nekroz combo. But now that we are now going to move away from that and then move on to the first of the teleport combos. So with this, this is going to require. So our first teleport combo involves first Penguin, Avons, and Nekroz of Arid Bear. What we're going to do here is first special summon first Penguin, since we have no monsters on the field at the start. We can then normal summon Avons to then special summon out our Ariel, the Priestess of Nekroz. We then go Nekroz of Arid Bear effect, discarding itself and tributing the Ariel to send the Divine Mirror once again. Ariel effect is then going to allow us to add any non-ritual Nekroz monster from our deck to our hand. In this case, we'll add Amelia for extending. We then special summon Amelia because we have a warrior Nekroz either on our field or in our graveyard. So in this case, we have Arid Bear in the grave, so we can special summon it. Amelia is then going to add our Nekroz of Trishula or Unicorn, depending on how you want to go about the turn 2 plays here. But for this, we'll mainly just adding Trishula. We'll then go and synchro off Amelia and First Penguin to then make our Silent Psychic Magician, and this card is going to allow us to special summon one level 4 or lower psychic monster in our graveyard or banishment, and it gives us the option to increase its level by 1. We're not going to take that option. Now, from here is more of a choose your own adventure situation. You could either, if you have, like, say, 3 Nekroz cards in hand, for example, you could go Ariel effect, reveal the 3 cards, lower its level to 1, and then use Silent Psychic Magician and Ariel to get out our Serene Psychic Sorceress. But for this combo, we're going to hard Synchro Summon with no level, like, modulating here, and instead just hard Synchro Summon out our Virtual World QB Shenshen. And Virtual World QB Shenshen is essentially our walking D-Fissure, except if instead of it being sent from anywhere, if it's just sent from the field to the graveyard, it's just banished instead. From here, we will then activate our Divine Mirror, banishing Amelia and Divine Mirror to then add our Cycle. We will then use Cycle, tributing Avance, bringing back the Arid Bear. And then from here, Avance effect, we can not only add back the Amelia and Divine Mirror, we can also add back Avance because it doesn't specifically outline that it can't add itself back to the hand via its own effect. So now we set our Divine Mirror, and from here we have a pretty decent board. We have our Monster in the Game Banished and Arid Bear, we have our Walking D-Fissure, and we also have possible turn 2 shenanigans revolving around Trishula. The only downside to it though is that it's very dependent on the board state, so it's sort of like once again, this whole teleport fusion sort of thing is like sort of a choose your own adventure style sort of play here, depending on how you want to go about doing things on your opponent's turn. For our final combo, I'm going to be showing you the situation regarding Avance and Emergency Teleport. So on our draw phase, we would then activate Emergency Teleport to then summon out our level 1 Psychic Tuner in Brain Controller. And then moving to our main phase, we could then just normal summon Avance to then summon out the Amelia. And Amelia is then going to add the Arid Bear. And Arid Bear is then going to discard, tribute Amelia, to then send from our deck to the graveyard our Divine Mirror. Now we can then go Divine Mirror to then banish Amelia and Divine Mirror to then add our Cycle. Cycle is then going to tribute the Avance to bring back our Arid Bear, which will trigger the Avance effect to add back Amelia and Divine Mirror. And because we have a warrior on the field, we can special summon Amelia. And from here, we then just synchro off to then make the Silent Psychic Magician. Silent Psychic Magician is then going to get us back our Brain Controller, and we will then synchro off for 6. I just want to mention that Silent Psychic Magician can count itself as a non-tuner when it comes to when it's used as a synchro material, so very useful here, especially considering Brain Controller is also a level 1 tuner. We can then make our Serene Psychic Sorceress, and Serene Psychic Sorceress is then going to allow us to pay 1,000 to then set a Teleport Fusion to give us access to our Axon plays. We'll then set our Divine Mirror for potential turn 2 shenanigans, and from here we actually have a pretty decent setup. We have we not only have a Negate and Banish from Arid Bear, we now also have Serene's Graveyard effect and Teleport Fusion in addition to Divine Mirror. So in a way, as I've stated in the deck profile, Teleport Fusion works as a 4th Divine Mirror in this deck. A potential scenario, for example, with this, which is why I genuinely love this board state out of all of them, is that if your opponent activates a monster effect, you could just go cool Nekroz of Arid Bear effect, tribute to Serene, negate and banish, and then on res you could just, if your opponent has anything else on their field, you can go Serene effect, bounce a card back to their hand. And now that we have Serene and Silent Psychic Magician in the graveyard, we can do one of two things. We can then activate Teleport Fusion to then banish Silent Psychic Magician and any other Psychic in our graveyard, it really doesn't matter, to then bring out a Axon Kicker Oracle to prevent any further follow-up from your opponent, as it does negate a special summon from your opponent. Or if your opponent already has too much on the board, we could just go and fuse Serene and Silent Psychic Magician to then make Absolute Axon Kicker, paying 2,000 and banishing every face-up card our opponent controls. So it's essentially just a nuclear bomb of a card, and I absolutely love this card, genuinely. It works as a pseudo towers, but also just being able to banish your opponent's entire field is just... It's just a genuinely good serotonin boost. Honestly, I love this, just straight up. And another thing is, if this card is like sent to the grave, if this card's in the graveyard except the time it was sent, you can just banish it and then immediately summon out the Axon Kicker Oracle called to their field. So, in a way, all roads lead to this to Dr. Peter Tesla showing up. Like, nobody's gonna get this reference, I fucking swear. Okay, now that we've gotten through the combos, we're now going to be doing a few test hands to show you how this deck functions in a regular game state environment. So let's just give these a nice good shuffle. You notice I'll be using different sleeves here because the white ones in the deck profile got a little bit muddy for the most part. I don't want to, like, you know, confuse the judges for potential big events. So we have Emergency Teleport, Divine Mirror, Super Poly, Brain Controller, and Aerial Priestess of Nekroz. Okay, so from this, I think we're only going to be able to get out our mainline Psychic combo here for Serene, so it won't be too bad. We're going to be starting out with our Emergency Teleport on the draw phase to bring out the Brain Controller in our hand, and then from here, moving on to our main phase 1, we're going to be normal summoning Aerial, and then from here we can just sort of synchro for 5 to instantly make Silent Psychic Magician. And Silent Psychic Magician is going to bring back either our Brain Controller or our Aerial. So from here, we can either go into Hard go into QB Shen or go into Serene for the Axon line. I think in this case, the Axon line just works a bit more, considering the fact that a simple Imperm can just turn off our QB Shen on the field, essentially. So from here, we'll just go Silent Psychic, bring back the Brain Controller, synchro off for 6, to then make our Serene Psychic Sorceress. Serene Psychic Sorceress is going to pay 1,000, allow us to pay 1,000 to then to set the Teleport Fusion in my deck. I know it's in here somewhere. I did check before I recorded. Here we are. To then set the Teleport Fusion in our deck. And then we'll set just Super Poly, and I think, honestly, given the setup we have, I don't think it's too bad if we do... I don't think it's too bad. Like, if we're going against VS K9, we obviously activate Super Poly first to then deal with the... Psychic... the Psychic Vanquish Soul or the Psychic K9 to then make our Axon Kicker Oracle. Then, since we have Serene and Silent in the graveyard, we can then activate just Teleport Fusion to then get out a absolute Axon Kicker onto the field, paying 2,000 and banishing. So now not only do we have a board wipe, we also have we essentially have a Judgment. We have a Solemn Judgment that just banishes special summon monsters that were special summoned, essentially, on summon. So it's not too bad. And having Divine Mirror be like the discard from Polymerization is a plus, because turn 2, if we say draw into like an Avance, for example, we can then follow up with Divine Mirror and Ariel in the graveyard to then get out our bread and butter Nekroz plays. So it's not too bad, all things considered. Not bad for a first test hand. Let's put all these back and then give this one another nice good shuffle. Now, for test hand number 2, we've got Brionac, Space Typhoon, Radiant Typhoon, another Brionac, and a Unicorn. Okay, we're getting somewhere with this. So, I think from this just gets us our basic Nekroz combo, so no teleport shenanigans here, unfortunately, but overall, not a bad starting hand. We'll go Radiant Typhoon Visions on the draw phase to then draw 2 here. Okay, we may have some funny shenanigans to go on here. So from this, we'll just discard the Mystical Space Typhoon, because I think keeping the Forbidden Droplet just works a bit better. And then moving to our main phase, we can just go Special First Penguin. And then from that, we can just go Nekroz of Brionac. We won't do, once again, we won't do the add effect. So in this case, we'll just add a Avant, Swordsman of Nekroz. And what Avant is going to do is normal summon, special summon Amelia. Yeah, it's all coming together now. So we can special summon Amelia. Amelia is going to then add our Nekroz of Arid Bear. And from here, we can actually do something pretty crazy here. We're going to be doing something a bit crazy. We're going to be going Arid Bear effect, discarding itself, tributing the other Brionac we have in hand. Actually, no. We tribute the Unicorn and the Amelia on the field to then send both our... We send both our Divine Mirror and our Ariel in the graveyard, in the deck to the graveyard. And then from here, we can then just go Divine Mirror effect, bash itself and Amelia to then add the cycle. We could then just go cycle, tribute the Avant to then bring back the Arid Bear in our graveyard. And then Avant is going to bring back the Amelia and the Divine Mirror to our hands. And then because we still have a warrior on the field or in graveyard, it really doesn't matter. We can special summon Amelia and then sync off the first penguin and our Amelia to then make the Silent Psychic Magician. And Silent Psychic Magician is going to summon back the Ariel in our graveyard. Unfortunately, we do not have like exactly 3 of the Nekroz cards we need in our graveyard to put it to 1. So from here, I think we just hard make Virtual World QB Shen. And then after all that, we would just set our Forbidden Droplet. And honestly, it's not a bad board. I will say, we have a Monster Negate on board. We have a walking Dim Fissure, and we have Forbidden Droplet to stop any further follow-up with the Monster Negates. So overall, again, not a bad board, but I think with the amount we've sacrificed to get here, I think it could be better, but nonetheless, I think it's genuinely good with what we've got. We'll do one more final test hand, and after that, we'll wrap up the video in a nice, neat little bow. Alright. Final test hand. Ariel. Brain Controller. Forbidden Droplet. Avance. Really wish we got like the emergency teleport here, but we'll work with what we've got. So from here we can actually normal summon Avance. Avance is then going to bring out our, because we already have Amelia in hand, the best other option we've got in this deck is likely going to be our Nekroz of Sherit. And now since we have a Nekroz monster on the field, since we now have a Nekroz warrior monster on the field, we can special summon Amelia. Amelia will then allow us to add out our Arid Bear. And what Arid Bear is going to do is we're just going to like discard, use Arid Bear's effect, discard, tribute the Ariel and the Sherit in our hand to then banish 2. Well, not banish, we'll send 2. We'll send a Divine Mirror, and honestly, it really doesn't matter what we send here. So, theoretically speaking, if we needed to keep a monster in the a warrior in the graveyard, I'd probably say if we need to do Amelia again, we just send Colossus in this case. And now we have 2 triggers. We'll do Sherit Chainlink 1, Ariel Chainlink 2. Ariel is going to allow us to add a non-ritual Nekroz monster from our deck to our hand. We'll add Avance for a potential turn 3 follow-up, and we'll then add Sherit for turn 2 shenanigans. So we're getting the best of both worlds from this little test hand combo here. Finally, we'll then use Divine Mirror effect to banish itself and the Sherit to then add the cycle from our deck. Next up, we'll activate Cycle to bring back the Arid Bear from our graveyard. Avance is going to add back the Sherit and Divine Mirror. From here, we will then just set our Divine Mirror and Forbidden Droplet. And from all of that, we not only have the Arid Bear monster negate, we now have Forbidden Droplet and Trishula, so 3 different interactions here, 3 to 4 different interactions here from this whole board. So honestly, not a bad one. Really was hoping for the emergency teleport for Brain Control, but other than that, I guess we could just use it as Arid Bear fodder, so it's not too bad. So that will be it for the test hands. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this video. Don't know what deck I'm going to be cooking up next, though hopefully it should be a proper banger. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and until next time, my name's Benjamin. Thanks for watching.